Hi there, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of Talking True. Today, I'm really excited because I'm going to be diving into yet another juicy and deep theme, and that is past life healing for present life joy. And my guest today is Faith Streng. So I'm going to pass it right over to her and have her introduce herself so she can tell you who she is and what she has to offer. So, Faith, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me and creating this amazing platform for so many of us light workers and healers to chat and tell our stories. I am a third generation past life healer. I am a Reiki master, a cosmic channel, and a spiritual coach. And what I do is I help my clients to release the subconscious baggage that is remaining from past life trauma, which can be the deeply embedded subconscious beliefs. We clear out blockages from the chakra system and the organs in order to step into joyful and deliberate creation, because so many of us, we are introduced to affirmations. And when you first start with that work, right, you just feel like you want to hit your head against the wall because you just can't feel like you're more powerful than your own mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found that adding this work in the Akashic records, as well as combining it with the energetic system, it makes it much easier to hold on to those better feeling thoughts. It makes it easier to believe the affirmations. It makes it easier to direct the flow of energy in your life where you want it to go. And so I offer one-on-one sessions, I offer group programs and Reiki trainings, and I also offer retreats for people. And it is a really joyful and fulfilling work. And I love talking about past lives as more and more people are interested in this material. We are looking for answers because what I found is that when we're trying to understand our current lifetimes without looking at our past lives, it's like opening a book and opening a novel and just reading it in the middle with skipping the beginning. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. But as we dive into this material, we go, oh, that's why I have this challenging relationship with my sister, or this difficult relationship with money, or this reoccurring injury that just won't go away. And
Mm-hmm.
when we take the time to pull out, to see these stories, to release these limiting beliefs, it just becomes so much more joyful and playful and abundant in all areas of your life.
Fantastic. So, you said your third generation, so your mother and your grandmother did this work as well.
Yes, they did. They both used a modality called spiritual response therapy, which uses charts and a pendulum to identify and clear past life trauma. They started doing that with me when I was about 5. And actually, also separately, my grandfather was part of a channeling group, a rather famous channeling group in Detroit in the 70s.
Wow.
So my call to the galactic realms also is inherited from him as well.
Wow. So, do you use the same modality in terms of accessing the information?
I do sometimes, and I do teach it. Using that material for over 20 years really opened up my psychic abilities, and being attuned to Reiki did the same thing, so that now I'm able to just receive more information without using the charts and the pendulum. But there are some things and some times when I am called to use that material still. Mhm.
Mm. So just so I'm kind of intrigued with this. So, if a client reaches out to you for a session, let's say online on Zoom, like we're meeting here, what would that look like?
It would look a lot like this. We would just be chatting. I don't go into a meditation. I don't do trance channeling. And my way of working, my particular gifts are being able to tune into the Akashic records rather quickly, sometimes using the chakras as a portal. Say someone's having digestive problems, and I'll look into the solar plexus and we can identify past lives where that was also an issue, where there was an injury sustained, or several other things that could contribute to it. And we get just enough information to identify what the subconscious beliefs are that are holding you back. And then we call in our high level guides and we say, we surrender them, we release them, because we've had so many past lives, and for some of us future lives, and getting into the multiverse, that it's not really important to spend too much time on one or another. It's very easy for people to get too attached to their other lifetimes. I was a queen, I was this, I was this. It's like, well, we've all been everything, and we've all been everything in between. Our work is to just get in the whatever it is that we need to sort of set the stage, understand the story. It almost always resonates with people in this lifetime too. And we just move between whatever past lives want to come up. It might be 1, it might be 15, moving among the chakras, perhaps using some sacred geometry shapes as well to facilitate the healing. And people just have to show up. They don't have to do anything. If they want to talk, that's amazing. But they don't have to. It's just me channeling the information that wants to come through at that time. And 100% of my clients feel lighter and more positive after just one session. But of course, like all healing modalities, one is amazing. But if you really want to see the long-term results, you have to kind of keep up with it, right? But it is it's also, I'll be very frank, it's not for everyone. I will be very clear that if people are currently dealing with deep levels of grief, if they are actively healing present life trauma, then this work is probably not for them. My work is kind of after you've been through therapy and you've plateaued and now you're ready to go to the next step. But I have created a really beautiful community of people who are called to this work, all healers and light workers, many entrepreneurs. And it is truly transformational. I didn't even know when I started it that what I was getting myself into. And as I've continued to do my own work and hold space for other people to do theirs, it just continues to get better and better and better and deeper and deeper and deeper.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So I was going to ask you, about your own work. How do you use the same kind of methods to access your own information?
I do. I often do it when I'm walking and tune in for myself. I'll see, okay, what emotions are going on today? And I'll ask, is there a past life that wants to come through? Is there something in the chakras that needs to be cleared? Is there an organ that needs to be cleansed? Is there a specific guide who wants to come through to help me at this time? But I 100% do all the same work for my clients that I do for myself.
So you've seen your own proven results, essentially, is what's happened, right?
Yes, 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 I have.
Which
Yes,
is
yeah.
which is fantastic. I mean, I remember years ago, soon after I had a spiritual awakening in 1989, which is a long time ago now.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember that there was a couple who came on the island who were offering, a workshop on past life regression and all of those things, and I was kind of interested. But I remember saying, "Geez, I've got enough going on in my current life." you know I'm not sure I really want to delve into that. But what happened was I started having lucid dreams about past lives, and it was if you've had a lucid dream, you know that it is more real than the waking state. The energy of it is just incredible. And so I was shown, I think, 5 different past lives that really kind of explained a lot. I mean, I won't go into all of that because it's not relevant in terms of our conversation, but they can also show up in altered states, in dreams, and in meditations, right? So I'm assuming that the work that you do helps to facilitate that, if that is a kind of an authentic way for people to access the material as well. Have you had any cases where people have said, oh, I had a dream about this after working with you, or a meditation? Yeah.
100%. And something else that I was not anticipating in my work is that doing this kind of multi-dimensional healing allows our natural intuitive abilities to expand
Yes.
because we are naturally intuitive. It's just all of the other things that are blocking it. And when we don't give ourselves time to be in that space, and as we continue to peel back the layers of this glorious onion that we are able to return to that space. And absolutely, people will have lucid dreams, deep meditations where things come up when they're journaling, and it's paying attention, bringing your awareness to the triggers in your life that you don't understand, and being able to go, oh, with my understanding now of the Akashic records, this is probably something that has happened in a different lifetime. That if I can go to a healer, or if I'm feeling comfortable, I can go into a meditation and ask for the answers while keeping myself slightly separate from it, right? And that's the thing, as you spoke about when you were first introduced to it. It's like I got my own stuff to deal with. I'm not ready for that, right? Which is totally respectable. And if it's not in this lifetime for people, that's amazing too. But that being able to have that third eye perspective on things. Why do I have this crazy fear of heights? Why do I have this crazy fear of drowning? Why am I so afraid of spiders? Things that we just kind of brush off. But the
Mm-hmm.
fact is, when we go into the Akasha, we can actually get those answers and release some of the fear, because fear is fear is fear,
Mm-hmm.
right? It doesn't matter if we're afraid of success, or we're afraid of intimacy, or we're afraid of getting hit by a train, God forbid. It's still fear that we're living with, which is holding us back from our highest potential and our highest timeline. And when we are able to, yes, open up our psychic abilities and just be more connected to source on a daily basis, it's like whatever gets us there, then yes, please. And as we are in that receptive state where we can see more of our own stories for ourselves, that's like you said, it probably brought you so much peace. It put pieces together. Everything started to make so much more sense. And it allows you to live with so much more freedom instead of
Mm-hmm.
blaming ourselves or questioning spirit, or, feeling that disconnect. And it really is part of this holistic healing experience we have the opportunity to do in this
Yes.
time-space reality.
Yeah. It for me, it really unleashed this tremendous energy and this tremendous power that hadn't been available
Mhm.
prior to seeing these past lives. I mean, remember one very, very clearly where I was having what I call a normal dream, and then
Mhm.
I woke up. I woke up within the dream because I had the thought, this is a dream and I'm dreaming.
Mhm.
And I looked down at bare, calloused feet standing in a dirt field. And then
Mhm.
I looked around, there were corn, it was a big, massive cornfield. And then I remember looking across at the hill, and there was a church, and the sun was setting. And there was this longing, this deep longing in my heart, because I knew that in that lifetime, I'd wanted to have a direct experience of God. And I
Mhm.
hadn't been able to find that. And
Mhm.
I tried to find it in the church, within the sort of confines of religiosity, and I hadn't been able to find it.
Mhm.
And I realized that I had died, with this longing
Mhm.
still in me. So that really explained a lot with respect to my kind of orientation in this lifetime.
Mhm.
And it, I didn't know, I didn't need to know where it was, I didn't even need to know when it was, but
Mhm.
the energy inherent in seeing that was released, and it shifted something huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm really happy to hear that you're doing this work, because it does help a lot of people, especially when people feel like they're stuck,
Mhm.
or they have this condition that they can't get rid of. Um,
Mhm.
and that can be really kind of annoying. I mean, to say the least. I mean, I have a friend years ago who used to always say that she always had this problem with her throat chakra. She could feel like this, like almost like a metal collar around her neck.
Mhm.
And that went on for decades. And if you can find somebody that can facilitate that kind of work, it does unleash tremendous insight. And also, as you said, alongside that, your intuitive abilities just kind of take off. I mean, something really profound happens, with that. So does your mom still do this work? And other family members, they still all do this?
My grandparents are no longer in this dimension. My
Mm-hmm.
mom still does it a little bit, but not consistently, and it's been really beautiful. She's been such an integral part of my spiritual journey now, as I've taken what I was raised with and kind of run with it and learned all these other new things. Then I've been able to introduce her to some new things, which has been really wonderful. So, but it's been such a real privilege to have someone in my corner that I've always been able to talk to about all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And besides, healing and clarity and peace and joy, the other thing that so many of my clients are looking for is community, because I'm sure you hear this too, and you've experienced this when you start on the spiritual path. There's usually not people in your life that you can talk to about it,
Yeah.
and even that, we can usually find patterns in past lives of what I'll affectionately call group stuff, when we have been ostracized or killed or exiled by a group, and being able to understand why we have some resistance to aligning with the people who are really good for us, who care for us, who see us, can also doing that healing can allow those pathways to become clear and allow you to find perhaps other people from past lives that you've had really loving and joyful and peaceful relationships with. And it's, something else that comes up is we've all have to come so far to hold space and grace for ourselves, what we have been through in this human experience. Being a human is not for the faint of heart. And it takes a long time just to be able to love your experiences as best you can, knowing we cannot change them, but we can learn and grow and thrive and teach from them.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're ready, or if you're interested to then go into past lives and just be able to hold space for your sweet little soul and be like, oh my gosh, I have been through so much. Look at me and look what I've learned. And to circle back to the particular one that you expressed, that yes, you do not need to get hung up on the details, because we can't even count how many lifetimes that we've had. And also to be able to realize, I see that in that lifetime, I was seeking this thing outside of myself, instead of understanding that me just looking at this sunset is me communing and feeling
Mm-hmm.
source energy and feeling this unity consciousness. And so there is this, as we examine what we've been through in this lifetime and go, I see where my mind was, that I was not able to see this higher perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And going into these past lives, I see where I was not capable of seeing this perspective. And now I understand how that is offering healing and expansion in my lifetime. So I can say thank you to everything I've been through, because it has allowed me to be who I am today, both
Yes.
in my life and in my past lives.
Mm-hmm.
And also that usually when I start working with someone, it's the tough stuff, right? It's the trauma that comes up. But it's really important to know that we have also experienced joy and abundance and fun, and we have aligned with our dream life in other lifetimes. And so it's always so fun for me when I can feel, okay, there's a download coming through, and I get a little bit of information, and then I'll ask, is there a perceived wound here? And sometimes I get a no. And that means that this was a lifetime where we are allowing the soul to remember all of the positive aspects, which we can also do from our experiences in this lifetime, right? It's all
Hmm.
about tricking the brain into the frequencies. And if we can remember something from this lifetime or another lifetime, it makes it easier to sustain, to know I've already done that. I've already accomplished that. I've already made this happen in this other lifetime. And it was so good. Spirit, angels, ancestors, whoever you work with, help me remember that experience now. And you just stay there as long as you can, right? You just milk the frequency as long as you can. And
Hmm.
that frequency, we know that is the magnet that creates opportunities for that to happen in this lifetime. And so I love talking about the connection between manifestation, which, the word is
Yeah.
gets a little yucky now, but deliberate creation, I like instead, and the connection with past lives and that work as well.
I love that term, deliberate creation. It's fantastic. And you know what? Let me share something that I think is quite relevant with respect to this conversation. But I think it was in the late 90s, quite a while ago. But I did transpersonal hypnotherapy training, and which is really amazing. And part of that was being able to lead people into a kind of short past life, exercise. And so we were practicing on one another, people that were doing the training. And I was led into this past life where I saw myself being bound up,
Mm-hmm.
with kind of rope,
Mm-hmm.
and thrown into a river and drowned, essentially, because I was kind of a wise woman, and I had knowledge. And the thing that was two things came out of that. It was a releasing on a cellular level. So literally for 48 hours afterwards, I could feel every cell in my body was like vibrating and
Mm-hmm.
was releasing. I guess it was fear,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly in terms of sharing who I was and standing in my truth and owning it and all of that. So there was all of that going on a sort of frequency vibrational level. And then it really spoke to why I'd had so much anxiety about sharing my story of awakening and being seen and all of those things. And I think the reason I'm sharing this is because I think this story is so true for so many women in particular, so many healers in particular, who in former lifetimes were denied the opportunity to to really shine and to share and to speak from an authentic place of pure knowing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We hear a lot of discussion of the witch wound, right?
Yes.
Which, which sometimes again, people can get kind of attached to that.
Hmm.
But because it is about it's okay, let's go in, let's see it, let's clear it, and then let's move on. Like let's shine our light. But I don't know if I've ever met a healer, a light worker, a visionary who has not had severe past life trauma where they were, killed, persecuted, tortured for their psychic intuitive abilities. And because as we've said, it's hard to be human. And historically, it's been really hard to be a human, any human.
Hmm.
And so my work always comes back to we have to be, I mean, it is a wild time to be alive, and we have to accept we all chose to be here, to be a part of this
Yes.
foretold awakening that is happening, this very palpable shift that is happening.
Hmm.
And that we have to come. It's amazing to be alive at this time when there are people who want to hear what I have to say, where I don't have to just live in one small village of people. And if they don't accept me, that's it.
Yes.
Technology allows us to connect with each other. In really new revolutionary ways. It allows us to share ideas. We can, there is ancient knowledge that is now coming to the surface more than ever before. And, but facing those, holding space for those past lives, it, again, that's why I always say, like, you have to be in a space with your own mental health and your emotional health, that you're able to have some distance and know that this is not me now, right? I don't have to re-experience this. I'm invited to watch it like a movie and experience whatever's coming up in my body, right?
Mhm.
Because so many times people are in my sessions and I'm downloading something and they just start to cry and they go, "Why am I crying? I don't know why I'm crying." Because your
Mhm.
soul remembers, right?
Yes.
And
Mhm.
I think that, again, not everybody will get to it now, but working in this way is the next healing level, right?
Mm.
And whether it's in this lifetime or another lifetime or in another dimension, we'll all get to here, because it is only in the releasing of the deep, deep, deep shadows, self-doubt, self-loathing, right? That we can step into the divine beings that spirit wants us to be and share and reflect. And this is one way that I have found that is incredibly effective in that space. And of course there are other ways, but and I think it's we also love stories as
Mhm.
humans. Telling our stories and hearing stories and learning from stories has been uh, around since we even before we could communicate verbally. And so I think that there is also some that aspect to this work, to being a part of the stories, that allows us to learn on a really profound level too.
Yes. Yes. Because look, I mean, I think once you've had an awakening, you realize and recognize that you're not the story. You're a lot more than the story. That is your authentic truth and authentic
Yeah.
nature. But within that, there needs to be an honoring of the story as well,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise you're just doing the whole spiritual bypassing game, and that isn't authentic, and that doesn't sort of allow for integration.
Right.
So it's really important to honor the story, and to really understand the patterns, because with respect to the past life that I just shared about what I saw and experienced and all of that, the thing that is really deep in the psyche of most people is fear of being thrown out of the community.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's the whole ostracization game or wound, that often needs to be healed before people can authentically shine and stand behind their gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter how powerful your gifts might be, if you're afraid to access them and share them, then something really deep needs to be healed.
Mm-hmm. Because it was, for so long, that was survival. If you got kicked out of the tribe or the village or the community, you're off in the wilderness. You're probably not going to live very long. And
Mm-hmm.
when we can, yeah, hold that perspective of, okay, my people pleasing, right? Or my constantly catering and giving to people has a very real, not only past life, but biological, like, fear behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Once you dig into that, that can help you, again, come to this present time space reality, understand you are safe. And that's what it really comes down to for all of us, right? I
Yes.
am safe. I am safe. I am safe. That, foundational root chakra energy. I am safe in my body. I am safe in this body. I am safe on this planet. I am safe in who I am. And until you activate and ground in the root chakra, you can't open up the third eye, because, right, you'll fly off to another dimension and never come back. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, really being able to understand what your present life story, your long-term story, your long-term pattern has been, will give you clarity on what your purpose is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we know once you spiritually awaken, you're like, listen, eventually I want to be done with this SHIT, right? Like, I want to go home. I want to retire. I want to be a part of source. I want to end this karmic journey. But the only way to do that is through, like you said, you can't bypass it. You can't love and light your way, into into infinity. You have to deal with the very real human emotions that we came here to experience and learn how to find peace with them, because that is what expands us, right? Depression expands us. Grief expands us. Lack expands us. It allows our energetic container to be big enough to receive all of the opposite good that wants to come to us too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went off on a little bit of a sideways tangent
No,
there, but it's
no, it's
but
great.
being able to hold space for your story, starting there so that you can recreate the future story, aligning your will with the divine will, is really where we all want to go.
Yes. And I love what master yogis say. Authentic master yogis
Mhm.
who give Shaktipat awakening and all of those things. They always say that after the awakening of the Kundalini, or after you've had a shift of consciousness, you will be shown at least 5 or 6 past lives
Mm,
that are gifts of grace, in
mm,
order for you to be able to see what needs to be healed,
mm,
and what needs to be worked through. Because
mhm.
unless you have access to that information, you're clueless.
Yeah.
You
Mhm.
can have these ongoing issues, and never get to the root of what the issue is, like
Mhm.
fear of speaking out, or
Right.
not being able to connect in with your intuitive gifts, or
Mhm.
even like irrational fears, or having these bodily conditions that keep showing up, like
Mhm.
constant backache or whatever.
Yeah.
um,
Mhm.
not knowing how to deal with it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
And
not having
it's
to go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I mean, you look at so many people who have thyroid problems, right? And we know even the slightest imbalance in your thyroid, which Western medicine won't even, classify as being an issue, can have a very real consequences on the rest of the endocrine system. What is the thyroid connected to? The throat, speaking out, authenticity, right? Speaking your truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very, very much believe, right? We need Western medicine, we need holistic medicine, we need ancient medicines, we need energy healing, like we need all of it. It all has its place, right? But ideally, Western medicine is for emergencies and things that, can't be fixed. I had a total hip replacement when I was 35 from a birth abnormality. I was not going to Reiki myself a new hip, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
needed Western medicine. But when we're able to blend this understanding with, again, those headaches, most people just accept headaches as a part of life, or migraines. It's like, no, let's really get in there and see what's going on. No health issue is created in a vacuum, never once.
No.
And it's not about, and of course, it's never about blaming yourself or feeling mad. I think a lot of healers also experience that. Why can't I just heal myself? It's like, well, you're not supposed to. We're supposed to work in communities. We're supposed to work and learn from each other. But once we add this like missing piece into the physical healing journey, it is really it is miraculous what can happen, right?
Yes.
And also to your point about what these master yogis say, I mean, reincarnation is not new age, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
new. It's been a part of all the major world religions, and even originally Christianity. If you go down, to these channel texts, to alternative biblical histories, you see Jesus, Mary Magdalene, all of the ascended masters who were around at that time. They all had a very conscious understanding of past lives and past life healing that,
Mm-hmm.
was removed from certain texts, which, that's a whole other podcast for another time. But that this is the ascended masters, people who've walked this planet, right, obtained the level of ascension, and decided to stick around to help the rest of us schmoes get to the same level, to remind us who we are. They are guiding us just in that beautiful, beautiful story. Like, this is where the answers are.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Yes.
where the answers are.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I recently shared in another interview that for years now, shortly after receiving Shaktipat, having this awakening, I just intuitively knew that whenever I have any kind of condition, like even a headache, earache, whatever it is, backache, I always immediately, the first thing I do is go to the energetic component and have a conversation with it, because that's really where the healing takes place. And then, of course, I'll go see a doctor if I need to, take it further or whatever. But I already know what the deal is. And what was great was a few years ago, I when I lived on Grand Bahama Island, which is another island, the island's closest to Florida. I went to see a doctor there. She's a little Polish woman. Her name was Dr. Horsfall, and she must have been 80 something, and she was still flying her own plane, and she's a right character and the whole thing. And I had found a little cyst on my breast, and I, did the energy work and got kind of messages about what that was. But I went to see her, and I said, I had this cyst on my breast. And the first thing she said to me was, what's been getting on your tits? And I just said, this is why I said to Dr. Horsfall, this is why I really love you. And I really appreciate you, because you understand the importance of energy medicine. And, she worked with me a little bit, but there was no issue, And the thing is that your body never lies. It will always, always speak truthfully to you. So if anything, and again, the yogis say, if something happens in your life that is uncomfortable or you're unhappy about, or it brings up this strong emotion, you don't feel that you're empowered to change it or do anything with it. It starts in the subtle body, and this kind of dis-ease about what's happening then filters down into the physical, and then it will manifest as a condition. So it really has to, it has to be addressed in the subtle body first. And this is why it's important to at least have an understanding about who we are, what our past lives look like, what we're doing with our energy, are we living on purpose, and all of those important things. Because if we're not, something will happen to kind of get our attention.
Yeah. And you will continue to live feeling like things are happening to you. You will continue to live feeling like a victim of outside energies that you have no control over.
Exactly.
Instead of, and this can be very triggering for people, which I totally understand. And again, if anybody's listening or watching and this is triggering, like, just tune it off. Just, don't even keep watching this. But being able to be in the space of understanding that everything is a reflection of what's happening inside. And if you are like, well, there's no way I was thinking this, there's subconscious stuff going on. Like, there just is. And when I have clients who come to me, the first thing I always ask is, what's going on with your body? Because by the time, right, as you said, it manifests in the body, it's already gone through all of these other subtle layers. And also being able to then go, okay, so what's going on with you right now? Now let's look into your past lives and see if anything has happened that has contributed to this. Just today, I had a session with a young woman who, she had this foot injury that just kind of happened overnight, and before she was about to start this new level of dance class. And we, when we were talking about things and we tuned into the Akasha, and there were two different past lives where there was a foot injury, one where she was a dancer, and one, that was something else and it was coming up because there was some fear or a feeling like maybe this actually isn't good for me. And her body was talking to her. Our bodies are giving us messages all of the time. And we know that treating the physical symptom, it does not get to the root of the problem. But when we see this holistic area, we can live with more health and vitality than we have been told, than the story we've been told, right? There is so much more empowerment, and being able to have even a basic understanding of the chakra system, of, the work of Louise Hay, who's been so influential on me and my work now. Just giving a little bit of of interest there, it opens up everything.
Mm-hmm.
And now my personal experience was different because I was born with a dislocated left hip. They used to call it congenital hip disorder. And so with something like that, it's like, yes, we think that there was a great aunt maybe who had something. So of course genetics, right? But also genetics, to my understanding, it's inherited trauma. I mean, you can look at it as just this, measurable thing, but it's really trauma that's been passed down from generation to generation, right? And
Yes.
so I know that in my most recent past life in the mid-century, I was a dancer. And I used to have a lot of fear around crossing the road against the crosswalk. My husband's from New York, so he's always like, let's just go, let's just cross. And we live in LA. And I was like, I feel like maybe there's some past life trauma like around this because I have like a lot of deep seated fear around crossing, which is very healthy, right? But
Mm-hmm.
so not only did I have this past life where I was a dancer and put a lot of strain on my body and on my hips, but I also then it got hit by a car and it caused very severe physical symptoms. So it's like we see this inherited genetic stuff, but then we also see this directly connected past life trauma that was not addressed, was not healed. And also looking at the sacral chakra, the feminine flow, abundance, right? That's like all my work is about. I think in a lot of women, relate to this. Like I'm like, let's go, let's do, let's go, let's produce. And my whole work in this life is learning how to be more in my feminine and soften and receive.
Mm-hmm.
So my high self was like, listen, we got to slow her down from the get-go because otherwise she is going to burn out real fast. Now, when I was able to combine the past life healing with the energetic balancing, right, along with the surgery that I got way too late, I lived in chronic pain for 20 years. Um, then my healing went so quickly. My business expanded rapidly. I didn't even have physical therapy after my surgery, which was weird on the part of my surgeon, but I knew enough on how to tend to myself and work with my body that I didn't need it. Um, and so when we have those things where it's like, yes, I need surgery, I've been in an accident, whatever it is, when you apply all these other things to it, it will get to those even deeper levels of healing that we are really asking for to expand in all of the spiritual ways that we want. Because again, joy is our birthright. Joy is
Mm-hmm.
our birthright. And we are all being squeezed right now. We feel like we're living in a pressure cooker, right? I mean, and not just in the United States. I mean, obviously, not just in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's, we all feel like we're, like anything's going to blow at any minute. And because so that is like really forcing us to go even more deeply inward and take the time and use the tools and seek them out because I promise you, like even now, you can align with joy and abundance and peace. You
Yes.
can.
Mm-hmm.
And this collective, experience is all reflecting, hundreds of years of trauma and disconnection and fear that everybody who's on the planet right now has a role to play. I heard this beautiful quote a couple days ago that was, puzzles have big and small pieces, and we need all of the pieces to make the puzzle. And by tuning into what your joy is, what makes you feel connected to spirit, and again, milking that as long as possible. How am I being called to be of service? That is being a leader. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to start a nonprofit. You don't have to be a professional, healer. You just have to do what you're being called to do. And working in the Akashic records can help you identify what your gifts are. Oh my gosh, like, look, I have all these past lives where I've worked with herbs, or where I've been a teacher, or, where I've built things with my hands. And you go, oh yeah, I actually really love to do that. And it helps you go, right, because it's part of my spiritual DNA. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm supposed to be doing. That's what I'm supposed to be doing now. And just one person, right, living in that light, because we're all connected, it all just ripples out to everyone
Yes.
else.
Yes. especially now, as you said, it's so important to really trust your innate knowing, listen to your intuition, follow where that's leading,
Mm-hmm.
try and find the courage to step out and to lean
Mm-hmm.
into it rather than, have an intuitive kind of download and then do nothing about it.
Right.
Which is often what happens. People kind of drop it. They'll feel the energy of it initially, and then they'll just drop it because they'll tell themselves they don't know what to do, or they're afraid to do something, and it might be just a small project, or it might be something much bigger, but there is a lot of fear around embracing one's own inner guidance, and there can be an over reliance on believing the stories and the narratives that are playing out on television, in the news, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And now more than ever, we're all being called to really listen and tune in and to follow what feels right for us, and to live true to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's when we don't that depression lands, and we feel stuck, and we feel like we don't know what to do, and all of
Mm-hmm.
those things. And that's no way to live. I mean, that is as joyless and as unhealthy as it could possibly be.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on living a joyful life. And you can only live a joyful life when you are in alignment with your soul and your spirit,
Mm-hmm.
and you're living true to that, and you're living in an authentic way,
Mm-hmm.
and not just kind of giving your power away to, I don't know, to a business or a job that you hate, or a relationship that isn't working, or being kind of fed 24/7 with the news.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And all of those stories that are being played out. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really important to just pause a while and connect in. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a seated practice, or anything. It can be just going in nature,
Mm-hmm.
but really aligning with the truth of who you are, and living true to it, right, as well. So
Yes.
everything you're doing is really in support of that, and it's an amazing resource for people,
Mm-hmm.
when they're ready for it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. And it's, a lot of people I have private, when I started to see how the intuitive gifts of my clients were opening up, I launched my private 3-month coaching sessions, specifically to allow your intuitive gifts to open up through intensive this work. And so many people, they feel like, well, I'm not really psychic, I'm not really intuitive, I don't. I'm like, well, are you aware of how your feelings feel in your body? Are you, do you ever hear that still small voice in your head that says, maybe you should take a break? Maybe you should go to bed? Maybe you should drink some water? Maybe you should call this person. And then it turns out they're so happy that they heard from you.
hmm
And that feels good. It feels good to listen to that voice. It feels good to listening to your feelings, but it does also take time and cultivation of realizing, yes, where your energy is being expended in ways that aren't helpful to you. And it usually feels like work. It seems it's easier to put on the TV than it is to sit down and do some inspired journaling.
hmm
But you carve out you do it enough, and all of a sudden you start to feel a little bit different, and you start to notice that you feel a little bit better. It's like meditating once may or may not do much for you, but if you meditate for 6 months, you're going to start to feel a difference. It's the cumulative effect of all of these things, so that when the intense times do come, you have them available to you. And what happens is eventually you realize that it doesn't take that much work. It's a little bit of tweaking. It's just making different choices, that
yeah,
it's not actually that much work to do things that are healthier for you. And then after a little amount of time, you go, whoa, that other way is totally unsustainable to me. And
hmm
and and I don't even want to do that anymore, because I want to feel good. I didn't even know how bad I was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what it is, because so much of our life, right, is overstimulation, doing, so much noise, so much screens, right? It's all numbing. It's all
Yeah.
numbing what's actually going on. And it is our responsibility to carve out the time and the spaces and the experiences and the modalities to remember who we are, which is can only really happen in quiet. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, maybe there's a group dance, of course it can happen in other ways, but there's no avoiding being alone and being quiet and being with spirit, realizing you are not alone and you've
Mm-hmm.
never been alone, accepting that you are beloved, that you are cherished, you are treasured, you are important. And I love introducing people to their, guides, angels, ascended masters, their star being friends, because that can help them really forge a connection to understand that you have all of this support all the time on this path. And it's so beautiful what happens, again, like just a little shift, just a couple small tweaks, right? And that really gets that momentum going until eventually you go, oh, this is what I want. And right, what I used to do, or that other thing, or what I see other people doing now who I used to be spending time with, I no longer tolerate that. I want peace.
Yes. Yes. And harmony and
Yeah.
flow and
Yeah.
ease and inspiration.
Yeah.
And yeah, abundance, however that kind of lands. Yeah. All of those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's available to everybody.
Mm-hmm. Every single person, every single person. It doesn't matter where you came from. And now, again, we live at this time where there are so many stories of people who have created something magical
Mm-hmm.
from what seemed to be nothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? There are no longer any excuses. There's all the help you need is out there. There are so many free resources
Mm-hmm.
available to people now. There are different modalities no matter what you're interested or called to. But it is personal responsibility. No one's going to give it to you. No one's going
Yes.
to give it to you.
Yeah.
Knowing how your brain works, if you have a specific brain chemistry, right? Knowing, again, if you were born with a heart issue, for me, I've got a titanium hip. It's like, I can't run marathons. That's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be happening. It is my responsibility to tend to my body, which I know will then affects my emotional state and how I can show up and how much I can give, and how, more importantly, how much I can receive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that is fantastic. Yeah, really fantastic. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared today, Faith. I think this might be a good place to end this episode, and yeah, and just allow all of that to kind of settle for people and integrate. So thank you so, so much for sharing your wisdom and for being here and to bringing so much energy to this episode. It's been absolutely fantastic. And so would you like to just kind of let people know where they can find you?
Yes, I would love to. And thank you so much for this conversation and holding space. You're so lovely. I am on Instagram at Faith Streng, and TikTok and Threads. You can find me on YouTube at Faith Streng Healing. My website is faithstrenghealing.com. And I do have 2 upcoming retreats with space available in 2024. We are going to be in Sedona towards the end of July, and in Ireland in September. So if anyone's interested, please reach out for details about those.
Wow, that sounds, whereabouts in Ireland?
We are going to be in Eastern Ireland, about an hour inland from Dublin in the
Oh,
mountains, and
wonderful.
then taking
Oh,
some excursions from there.
wow, that sounds fantastic.
I'm pretty excited about
Very
it.
exciting.
Very
Yay.
exciting.
Yay. So, of course, I'll have all the information in the show notes so people can find you and reach out, if they want to book a session with you and all of those good things and find
Beautiful.
out details about the retreats. And yeah, it will all be there. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you
And
so
thank you.
much.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you everybody for joining us today. This has been a really great episode as always. I appreciate you taking the time to be here. If you enjoyed the content, then please subscribe if you haven't already done so, and let other people know. And in the meantime, be well, take it easy, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now. Bye.